Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching Disney's Haunted Mansion, starring Lakeith Stanfield, Tiffany Haddish, Rosario Dawson, Owen Wilson, and Danny DeVito. Now, the Haunted Mansion is, of course, one of the most beloved attractions at Disneyland and Walt Disney World. However, making an adaptation that's able to please the fans has eluded Disney for quite a while. Their first attempt was back in 2003 when they attempted to replicate the success they had with the Pirates movies by casting Eddie Murphy in the lead role of that film, but it failed miserably. So now they're trying again 20 years later to see if they can make a decent Haunted Mansion movie after they've also tried to make films out of various rides in the park. And while this one is better than the Eddie Murphy version, it still has its flaws. Let's get to the story, shall we? The story revolves around a man named Ben, played by Lakeith Stanfield, a former astrophysicist who turned tour guide who recently lost his wife and who doesn't believe in the supernatural. When he gets a call that a woman played by Rosario Dawson and her son are being terrorized by spirits at Gracie Manor in New Orleans, he agrees to help them out as long as he gets paid. But when he steps into the mansion, he finds that his grief has not only overtaken him, but there are 999 happy haunts in the Gracie Manor who not only follow him if he decides to go home, but they also are looking for one more so the Hatbox Ghost, played by Jared Leto, can return and wreak havoc over the world. So, Lakeith Stanfield has to rely on a professor played by Danny DeVito, a priest played by Owen Wilson, and a medium played by Tiffany Haddish in order to find out what happened in the Haunted Mansion and what they can do to end the suffering of the spirits that are staying there. So yeah, the story here of the film is quite a bit different than what you'd expect from an adaptation, especially given the story of the ride, even though there are plenty of references to the ride in the film. The endless hallways, Madame Leota making an appearance, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. You even get to see the various graves in the stretching room from the ride. However, it does feel like these characters aren't really fleshed out enough for the film to justify its 2-hour length. There are several scenes of the film that I felt could have been cut and you wouldn't have missed much. Almost like they were mainly putting in more scenes to put in more jokes, which is where we get to the weakest part of the film, the comedy. This is directed by Justin Simien, who previously handled the film Dear White People, and while that movie was generally effective when it came to its shock humor, obviously they can't do that kind of R-rated material for Disney. Here, the jokes really feel like they fall flat more often than not. Granted, the actors are clearly trying to make some of these lines work, but even they can't help some poor writing from time to time. Especially since some of the better jokes were already used in the trailers. Granted, there are occasional moments that made me laugh, but those were more down to some of the visual effects and down to the performances more so than the writing. Especially since actors like Owen Wilson, Danny DeVito, and Lakeith Stanfield usually make me laugh when they don't even have to try very hard. On top of that, the visual effects, while they can produce an effective jump scare occasionally, most of them do look kind of amateurish, like less movie theater quality and more Disney Plus quality, if that makes any sense. But given the amount of films that Disney's been making over these past few years, I'd imagine their VFX artists are being worked to the breaking point. However, I will say that for fans of the ride, you'll absolutely get your money's worth, not only with the references, but also with the clear love and admiration that the people who made this movie had for the ride. It's in the set direction, it's in the musical cues, it's in the actors who clearly are fans of the ride themselves. The story itself does have some good moments, but at the same time it does feel like it could have used some fine-tuning. But it's better than a story that had no hope of succeeding at all. So if you're a fan of the ride, I do think it is worth a watch, but if you're not, then you're probably not going to enjoy it very much. That's why I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. See you next time.